coming. All right, it's 6:30. We try to get it started at 6:30. We're anticipating people will be coming in, people will be leaving, and that's perfectly okay, which is fine and dandy with us. I just want to give you the ground rules for the open public meeting and the way in which it operates. The first one I have to tell you is we always record open public meetings. So the people who could not make it, or if you want to go back and check on something, you have the ability. It's going to be online, okay? It's on YouTube, all the recordings. And by the way, we have been recording, or Mitch's firm has been recording and putting online the Borough Council meetings, okay? So if you want to check on council meetings, feel free to go, okay? So whatever you want to see, go on YouTube, put in Hightstown, and whatever's available will pop up for you, okay? Item number 1, when this goes up, you'll be able to flag it off of YouTube, and you'll be able to see the meeting itself again, okay? Item 2, this is being recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, okay, in a sweep type when he looks for people asking questions and stuff, you can move your chair to the back, and I swear he won't point the camera back there for you. So if you're shy, that's fine and dandy, okay? Item number 3, it's not political. We try not to be at all, but we always acknowledge people that show up in case you need to know who's here. The mayor just walked in. We acknowledge him and thank him for showing up. That's Jeannie right over here. She's running as a Republican for the Borough Council this year. And for full disclosure, I'm running, unfortunately, against the mayor, okay? But we're just trying to make this a open public meeting to talk about issues, all right? Larry, did you get a copy of the handout that they were passing out? Not? Okay. That's all right. We have enough to get started here. The forum that we're going to be using is real nice and simple. We're going to be picking up where we left off at the last meeting. We had 5 items that people had distilled through everything that was discussed and they wanted more information on. So what we did in the last 3 weeks is we tried to research it. We tried to get documents that would explain what's going on and how it's going on, and then present the documents directly to you, okay? If you have questions, we'll try to answer them, and the great thing about someone like Larry or someone who's on the council, they have more insight than we do. They might be able to explain something a lot better than we can. We don't understand it, we'll be happy to tell you, I'm sorry, we don't, we'll get an answer for you type, you know what I'm saying? But if you have questions, feel free to raise. These are wireless microphones for a reason, so we can pass them on directly to you people. You can ask questions, you can give comments, you can give answers, whatever it might be, from a practical sense, okay? So once we get done with the initial 3, we have an hour and a half of the program. We'll be happy to move on with respect towards anything you people want to discuss. The nice thing about it is, because it's open and the mayor's here, this may be an extension for you to bring up things that you didn't have an opportunity to discuss at a council meeting or something. Larry's interested in hearing what you have to say. That's why he's here, hopefully. You will talk to him about it and see what's going on, okay? Any questions? Okay, Larry, do you want to say anything before we get started? Or he's fine. Okay, thank you much. The first item that we're going to discuss is the handout that we passed out to you. It's a several-page handout. In last meeting, we had a lot of discussion about taxes and tax issues. And Tony, would you be kind enough to make sure these people are coming in? You have a copy? Hi, Johnny. Okay. So, if you'd be kind enough to take a look at the handout that we gave you, it's like a 4 or 5 page handout, I think, which we stapled together for you. And it comes from 2 sources. The first one of which is, it comes from the State Department of Taxation. So the information that you see in the logo that you'll see on some of the pages is the New Jersey State logo. It comes right off the website. You can go right there yourself, and that paperwork will be identical. There is a summary page in there that we created for you for one reason only, and that is to do a comparison, because we're always being compared to East Windsor, okay? So we're always trying to figure out why East Windsor is this way or that way, because it's the larger, if you will, metropolitan area, if you will, Hightstown, East Windsor consolidated concept, okay? So let's get started with the first one, which actually is the user-friendly budget section. And the 2 parts that are on here that are extremely important to us, from my perspective, is underneath the graph. If you look there, it talks about total taxable valuation as of October 1st, 2017. The state says the total taxable revenue. property in New Jersey, in Hightstown, is $393,095,356. Okay? Now that's very important for us to be aware of, because if you look to the right-hand side, it talks about where all this comes from and the amount that's being raised by taxes for the entire process, which is school, county, etc. So if you take a look at it, you see right over there. Now, the two questions that people ask about taxes are, why are our taxes higher in East Windsor, and is there anything we can do about it concept-wise? The documents that we just provide to you here, and as you look at the second part of it, you're going to see on the second page, this is referred to on the second page, okay, on the right-hand side, it says property tax assessments, exempt properties. So in addition to the property that we just talked about, which is taxable, of $393 million, in the borough of Hightstown, in our 1.1 square mile, as they call it, is $682,000 of assessed property, which is tax exempt. Okay? So, in a nutshell, why are our taxes in the borough high? Two reasons. The first one of which is a revenue problem, and the second one is an expenditure problem. So as you look through there, I'd like you to take a quick look, if you would, at the summary page we did, which was a comparison of East Windsor, Hightstown. And the curious thing about this is when you look at Hightstown, you see that according to the state, these are not our figures, these are the state's figures. They say percentage of exempt versus non-exempt property in the borough. And they say it's 37.31% in Hightstown. In East Windsor, the state has calculated that out to be 7%. These are the state's numbers, not mine. Okay? Before you go crazy, understand the concept. We believe that the state's calculations are a little skewed. We think they're a little off-center. Why? Because they took the $146 million of tax-exempt property in Hightstown, and they compared that with the $393 million, which is taxable. That's how they got this number of 37%. If you look at the next page, which is the summary page we created, so this is not out of the state, but based on state information. Here you go. Here's a copy for you. I want everyone to have one. If you look at the page we created, this says it in a nutshell. In this one, it says the taxable value for Hightstown is $393,095,356, which is what you saw off the first page, correct? From the state. If you look at East Windsor, it's $2,811,058,486. If you look at the exempt properties in the borough, you're talking about $146,682,000. If you look in East Windsor, you're talking about exempt value property of $199,219,208. That's fine. In Hightstown, we have 86 exempt items according to the state. Those are properties. 89, my apologies. In East Windsor, we have 237. You didn't get a copy of that? Here's where the kicker goes. If you take the total amount of property value in the borough, we are looking at $539,777,356. In East Windsor, their total value is $3,010,277,694. When you divide the tax exempt properties into the gross, which is the proper way to do it in my opinion, you come up with 27% of all properties in the borough are tax exempt. And if you look at East Windsor, what's East Windsor? 6.6. In the document we passed out to you, you get a real clear idea of why that's the case. Because if you look at the tax exempt properties in there by category, you will find out that, for example, religious and charities, there are 25 of them listed in Hightstown. And there's 19 in East Windsor. Okay? If you take a look, you'll find out that $50 million worth of the public school system is located in Hightstown. 65 million, we're trying to figure that out. Scott Coster's still going nuts over those numbers from the state. $65 million of the school system is in East Windsor. But when you look at the number of schools, there are 3 in Hightstown and there are 3 in East Windsor. There are 4 primary schools or grammar schools, whatever you want to call them, in the system. 2 of them are located on Stockton Street in Hightstown. 2 of them are located in Twin Rivers. There is a middle school located in East Windsor. There is a high school located in Hightstown. You want to know why your taxes are high. It is because about 30% of the property in the borough, the value of the borough, is tax exempt. Where in East Windsor, it's about 7%. Someone has to pick up the tab. And when you look at the expenditure side, which you can look at the municipal budget, on one of these pages it says, and I was kind of surprised at it myself, the first page. On the first page in the box right over here, towards the bottom, it says the increase in, it says comparison municipal purpose tax rate. It shows the change in tax rate from the prior year to the current year. Our municipal tax portion has gone up 5.47% in 1 year. Okay? Now, I just give you the facts that you asked for. Okay? You want to know why your taxes are high? That's why. You want to know what to do about your taxes being high? We cannot expand any of the property in Hightstown because we're landlocked by what? East Windsor. But if you take a look at it, everyone loves to pick on Petty. And I'm not necessarily advocating Petty gets passed by any stretch of the imagination. But if you look at it, according to the figures here, $50 million of tax-exempt property is for the public school system. 60 million plus is for schools other than the public school system. Anyone want to take a wild hint as to where the hell those schools worth $60 million are other than this public school system? No, they're in Hightstown. $60 million worth of it. A good piece of that has got to be paid. Okay? And you can do the numbers, and we've crunched the numbers before. But the bottom line is, I believe, as a lot of people do, we must increase the revenue which is coming in from the tax-exempt properties. And we've got to do that from the statement of basically saying to them, step up to the plate. You can't let the residential property owners carry that kind of a burden. Do you agree? Yes. It's a fairness issue. I don't care about the tax-exempt status. In my review, there are 2 categories that they get tax-exempt status on. One is religious, and the other one is education. And I believe we need to reevaluate that stuff because it's not appropriate. If we go back and graph, which we started to do, the percentage of tax-exempt property in the borough over the last 15 years, you see about a 10-point growth in it, which is about a 45% increase, percentage-wise, okay? And when more properties become tax-exempt from a small group, reality becomes someone's got to pick up the tab. Yes, ma'am? Oh, by the way, you can feel free, ask questions. I don't have the answer. Larry can always clarify. Yes, ma'am?
My name is Elise Gorner, and I live in enchantment of Hightstown, a 55 and older community. And my opinion is when we take a look at the tax structure and we begin to reevaluate, I believe that we need to take enchantment of Hightstown into consideration. We are seniors, we're on limited income, we do not have children in the school system. And if we're talking about reevaluation, I believe that that should be part of the picture.
Personal opinion, I think from a tax standpoint, you can pass it over to Jeannie and someone else has a question. I think if you're going to reevaluate, you got to go back to basics and you got to look at it. There are state restrictions, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, that they basically say you can evaluate on certain times, you can't on other times, you can change things, you can't. So there are restrictions that the borough is under to do that. But you are 100% correct. It's something that we need to at least evaluate and research. Larry, can you clarify any restrictions like that you want to comment on or not?
Well, anytime a property thinks it's, if a property owner thinks his taxes are too high, he can appeal his taxes to the county. All right? But you're looking at these numbers, and I kind of disagree with some of them. But if you have three properties the same as yours or equal to yours, and they sold for less money than you are taxed for, you're appraised at, you can appeal those taxes to the county. We have a tax assessor that comes in weekly at the Borough of Hightstown. You can appeal to him. If he thinks there's a merit to it, he can even make some adjustments, but the county comes through and makes the true adjustment. It's a court hearing. It's not a very difficult hearing. As far as a reassessment, to do a reassessment is very difficult because there's a ratio between the sale of houses over a period of time. And the county will come back and tell you you're at a certain percentage. If that percentage falls too low, they'll tell you to reassess. If the percentage goes too high, in other words, your house sold for more than assessed value, they also come and tell you to reassess.
Okay, any other? Yep.
Norm Billings, long-time resident.
By the way, you don't have to identify yourself if you don't want to.
Okay, I'm unidentified.
He's unidentified. You know
I can't, I'm too well known. Okay. I'd like to know how many houses were acquired by Petty School within the 10, 15, 20 years.
I don't think I can answer that exactly how many.
Because
I know that there are some houses that are on the roll that Petty do pay taxes on, and there's others that they have on affiliated Appalina Drive that they put students in, they put faculty in, and they are tax exempt. But the exact number I couldn't tell you in the last 20 years because they come and they go.
So when Petty School comes in, they can purchase a house, stick a teacher in there, put one or two students in, and automatically goes off our tax and we're paying for it.
Not automatically. There's an application that they have to fill out, but
That's true.
But the borough has no control over that. That is a state and federal law.
Why can we not, as a borough, put a restriction on what can be sold to a nonprofit or how much land or whatever they can own? Because they're ripping us off. We don't have kids going to Petty School. We have kids going to their general school system.
Well,
I mean, years ago, a mayor would have his kid go to Petty. Or a councilman have his kid
Kids are
go to
already
Petty.
grown up.
I'll defend you my time, I'm afraid.
I wonder why that was.
Okay.
You had a question, sir?
The answer to that is that Petty had a $100 million gift, I want to call it a gift, and that gift came earmarked with certain restrictions to it. And one of the restrictions is they had to offer scholarships to local students. In exchange for that, we also have some teachers that send students to our school district. It doesn't weigh out, it's probably close to equal, but when you have state law that says that Petty doesn't have to give the borough anything, and Petty can buy every house, and the neat part is, the public school system, right, can buy houses and take them off the tax roll. They can tear them down and make soccer fields out of them. There's no control over it. And I tried maybe 8 years ago to get a school zone. In other words, anything inside the zone could be a school, anything outside the zone could not be, and they called it illegal.
Sir,
Incognito.
works for us.
What would be the tax liability on Petty schools if they were suddenly non-exempt?
Once again, all we know is that according to the appraised value, there is $60 million worth of schools which are non-public schools in Hightstown. So by deduction, if you subtracted $5 million for the heck of it, you could say $55 million possibly of assessed value. Personally, I think that number is very low. And the main reason is the appraiser, tax assessor, can't really assess the value of Petty School properly. There are no comps for them to be able to do that to, okay? But when you sit there and you watch the papers from years ago, and you see that they build an $18 million facility and a $23 million facility for the sports complex and stuff, I just add numbers together and I go, you take those two projects and we got about $40 million worth of property, what's fine. I don't know what Petty's worth. I do know that Petty has a very legitimate reason to have some tax exempt status. Some of it. I believe, not wanting to hammer Petty or anybody else, I want to basically say, as a group, I think the community here believes that some of these tax exempt properties can step up to the plate and take some of the pressure off of the non-exempt property owner. True or not?
True.
And that's it. And if you don't want to step up to the plate and be, excuse the expression, gentleman about it and honorable and work with them, then we go to plan B. What plan B is, let's find out. When you've been pushed to a point, what are you going to do? Wait till the number actually becomes 37%, like the state has it calculated, as opposed to the 27% we calculated? You want to wait till it's 40%? What point do you draw the line and say, enough is enough? To me, enough is over 20%, without a doubt. 5, 6 years ago, Lynn, when were you on council? 5 or 6 years ago, Lynn Woods over here was on the council, for those of you who don't know. The council at that point, Larry was on the council at the same time, Larry and the council sent a letter to the governor basically asking for help, saying, look, we're in a bind here. It's your state law that allows these properties to be acquired and for that percentage to grow. How about some tax relief, either under the unfunded mandate side or something else?
Susan Blue did not sign that, by the way. No sign.
Okay, Susan Bluth originally signed, then she didn't sign. But the point is, the borough went to the state looking for some type of relief and got nada. In our last discussion, if you saw it on the YouTube, we had the discussion, and I believe that it's been changed. There was a case decided, if you will. It wasn't finalized. It was not a court settlement finally. Princeton University is the new example. Princeton University claimed they were tax exempt, didn't have to pay. The borough and the township both in Princeton granted tax exempt status on the Princeton properties. 4 residents of the borough and township of Princeton got together and filed a lawsuit against the borough, the township, and the school on the basis that the tax exempt status was being abused, that the municipality was complicit in the scam, and it resulted in higher taxes for them as property owners. Everybody thought it was a joke, thought it wouldn't go anyplace. There was a challenge right away from Princeton and the township saying they didn't have standing because the decision about tax exempt property is made by the municipality, okay? The Superior Court judge said that taxpayers had status. They had standing. The lawsuit continued. When the lawsuit continued, there were 6 or 7 total losses in a row over a few-year period, about 4-year period of time, against Princeton and the townships. The end result was out-of-court settlement. The out-of-court settlement was, if I remember correctly, about a year and a half or so ago, Princeton University agreed to put a $14 million fund together for people that couldn't afford to pay their taxes, that were having problems because of medical or whatever it was. So there was a fund put together to help these people. In addition, Princeton University agreed to increase the amount of money it pays to the consolidated municipal government now to a couple of $1 million a year. So there was success, but it wasn't brought by municipalities, it was brought by residents.
Again, my point from the first question was, if you go back to the original agreement, and now you find that there were additional ratables which were now constructed,
Right.
do they qualify under the tax exempt status, or can those new rate or new facilities which are not ratables, okay, be gone after by the municipality, okay, as far as tax revenue is concerned?
And Larry, please follow me on this because I'm on a little shaky ground, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It is my understanding that each tax exempt property is by lot and by block. And what they do is they put an application for tax exempt status in every January saying, this lot, this block is tax exempt for the following reason.
Every 3
and
years.
Every 3 years?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, according to Scott. So they do it every 3 years. The municipal tax assessor approves it or doesn't approve it, okay? And based on that, whatever they build on that property is covered. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
But the point we're making is, in the Princeton case, the court found that there was complicity between the school and the municipality at the expense of the taxpayers. And I personally believe that there are ways of encouraging, shall I say, companies to step up to the plate, all right? Entities to step up to the plate and help. Larry, you got any comment on that one? Please.
I have a question. Let's go back to the future, okay? 40 years ago, 30 years ago, okay? Basically, before Robinson Douglas built Enchantment, it's a big tax base that the borough basically receives. Where was the budget and how was it really figured out if you just had the beverage company went out of business? How did you come up with all these numbers and with all the tax exempt items? They're all were stable, they're all the same over the past 25, 30 years, am I correct?
No, and I'm just going to say my answer is no, based on 2 things. Number one, the percentage of tax exempt property as a percentage of the total was less than when Chapman was built. That's number one. And number 2, the municipal budget was less at that point also, okay? So the cost to the taxpayers of the borough to raise, I don't know, Larry, I think in here it says something like
$4 million.
$4.5 million or something is the current budget. Is that sound right to you? About $4.5 million, okay? Back then, I would say when Enchantment was built, the municipal budget might have been somewhere around 3.25 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So there was less money that had to be raised. The cost was less. We went through a period of time where municipal payments were expanding rapidly. And one of the reasons that we forget is the retirement fund for the police and others, which state employees
that were deferred. The payments that were required to be made on municipal employees was deferred. The state wasn't paying their share in, so they allowed municipalities to go all the way down to 25%. Well, when you go down by 25%, you're deferring 75%. And what happened was, the chickens came to roost, and at some point, Chris Christie had the legislature change it, and they basically said, we're going to start making our payments, and that applied to municipalities. And at that point, not only were they paying what they had to on a yearly basis, they were making up retroactive. So we had spikes. And then all of a sudden they sat back and said, well, that wasn't such a bright idea. So they came out and said, we're going to put a 2% cap on municipal property tax increases, and they tried to do that one. So we'll see how that goes. Sir?
Quickly, if Petty makes a payment to the borough in lieu of taxes, is that in here?
Yeah, it would be in on the revenue side. Well, they make a payment to the borough, as former Councilwoman Lynn Woods says, it's not as a pilot payment in lieu of taxes. They make a payment to the borough. Is that categorized in any particular way, Larry, if you know?
A gift?
They make a payment, it's sort of like a gift to the borough,
Yeah.
but you'll never get Princeton University, any of the big schooling systems to say that they're giving you a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes.
How much?
They will never do that. No, none of the schools will do that because that's opening a can of worms.
How much are we talking about now?
27.
Well, let me put it to you this way. At the last meeting, this gentleman over here, not trying to put you under a lot of pressure, he represents, he's the manager of the federal housing project in the borough. And as I said at the last meeting, if there's any property in the borough which has tax exempt status, it's going to be the federal government by eminent domain. You follow what I'm saying? They own everything. And according to your statement last time, the amount of money that the federal government for that property gives to the borough as a endowment, a payment, whatever payment, okay, was twice what Petty pays.
Well, a little over 1.5 times.
Or 1.5 times what Petty pays. $27,000 is what we. Yes, $27,000 annually. That's right.
That joke.
With that, he doesn't want to get involved anymore. But in all fairness, I want you to be aware of the following. Petty donates to the fire company about $50,000 a year. They donate directly to the first aid squad, X dollars. I couldn't honestly say what that is. In my opinion, is it anywhere near what a reasonable number is? Hell no. Okay? They got a super deal. Do we need to do something about the tax exempt properties? Yes, because that's the only way we're going to be able to get the tax rate down so that we can get people interested in the borough and we can make your life a lot easier. Okay? Excuse me, ma'am. Do you have something?
No.
Oh, come on.
No.
Come on.
So that I can sell my house and get
So,
out.
another happy camper, and listen, with all due respect, there's more than you that wants the values to go up so you can get up.
When I moved here, I fell in love with this town. It was like so bucolic with this
Go ahead.
with this beautiful library on the lake and all this. It was gorgeous, and I was so happy to live in a small town. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, north of here, and it was like wonderful. And then we've been here over 20 years, and I just cannot believe what is going on in this town. It kills me. And if I wanted to leave, I couldn't, because nobody's going to buy my house. My taxes are insane. I live in a modest little house, and I'm paying like $8,000 a year. $8,000. I know there are a lot of people paying a lot more than me. But I mean, I live in a little teeny weeny house that is like nothing special. I'm just.
Okay, so I think, and I'm going to, with all due respect, we'll go for about another 5 minutes on the tax side, and then we got to move on to the others. Go for it, Norm.
Okay, going back to my question of how many houses, because if you go out South Main, you see houses being built by Petty left and right. They have been purchased all the way down almost to the line there. Mayor, how many houses does Petty own or plan to build again, because every time they build, your taxes are gonna go up because more and more is being taken. Not only between the garbage removal, the water usage, everything, all that has to be figured in. More and more work our municipal employees have to do, and I do take exception to everything, especially when Christie blamed everything on the government employees or the state employees. We work just like you people did when we were working. Okay, we expected, if you're gonna change anything, you're mad about that, then change it for the new people coming in. Don't do the grandfather clause and nail everybody who's had a promise of employment, payment, and retirement. But I'd like to know exactly how many houses that they already have. They built on every piece of land they got there. They built more buildings inside the property. More and more water has to be used. More and more students are coming in. And where are all these students coming from Hightstown that go to Penny and then go to our school? All right, who cares about giving them a gift to go into school? Pay us.
Two things we need to clarify. In full disclosure, number one, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, Petty and everybody else, the churches, the charities, everyone pays for the sewer and water rate. Whatever the rate is, they pay for it. It's a service-related function, okay? So the tax exempt doesn't go to sewer, water, or trash. It goes to the property tax, which is a hell of a number anyhow, please, okay? But it goes, Scott, you had something?
Yeah, I don't hear you saying as much petty. I hear you saying to take a look at all the tax exempts.
Yeah.
And I don't hear from you the focus on just petty. In fact, this study that you did of the comparison between Hightstown and East Windsor, in that alone, I don't see petty involved in that at all. I see East Windsor Regional School District in that, totally, because East Windsor Township is about 6 times the size in population and in property value of what Hightstown is. So if you extrapolate out of that we have a high school in Hightstown for East Windsor to know what our burden is for tax exempt properties here, they would have to have 6 high schools in East Windsor Township, and they have none. For them to know what our burden is for grammar schools, they would have to have a dozen grammar schools, and they have 3. So we are in an agreement with East Windsor, and I favor the way you worded it, I think, and that is to look at all of the tax exempts, and I think there's more to be gotten out of that.
If you're talking about $150 million, rounded off, okay, $150 million worth of tax exempt properties, okay, you're talking about a big number. What we should be doing, however we go about doing it, is get that number down, because every couple of million we get it down adds to the revenue side, takes pressure off of the taxpayers. You understand?
2 quick questions. Before the Coca-Cola company moved out, how long ago was that? The
Coca-Cola, Minute Maid moved out about 15 years ago.
No, it was on my term, probably 9 years ago.
Okay.
All right. We've been in enchantment.
Yeah.
We've been in enchantment enchantment started about 11 years ago. And our 78 homes pays taxes of $936,000. You can't tell me that with that much money coming into this city that they couldn't have kept their taxes down more than they are now? Where does the $936,000 go, really?
It goes towards the 4-point-something million. Please pass that over, Larry.
First off, when Coca-Cola was here and Minute Maid was here, it was the same company. They always paid their taxes.
How much?
Even when the place was abandoned, they paid their taxes all the time. The thing that hurt the borough of Hightstown was they used an outrageous amount of water. And the revenue that came from the water, right, Lynn, was unbelievable, and what it did, it built up a surplus in our water and sewer. Now, when the building was finally sold, right, the people who bought it gutted the building out and then appealed their taxes, just like anybody here could do. And they won their appeal. So that lowered their value, which lowered their taxes. And that's the way it went. That's what we really got hurt on, was the water volume and then the tax appeal. But, you know, a lot of, JP, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be controversial with you or anything like that there. Your taxes, your yearly taxes, and Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, is based on the budget. It's not based on all that other stuff, it's based on the budget. We raise, if we had 100 houses in Hightstown, all with the same size lot, the same size houses, and our budget would be $100 million, everybody would have to pay a certain amount of money equally. It doesn't work all that way because some houses are worth more than others, some lots are bigger than others. But that is the thing. Now, over the years, and I'm not trying to be controversial here, I'm just trying to be educational. With the insurance rates going up, with the employees' contributions being paid in, going up, the employees are getting more money per year, which contract negotiations, you understand that. Our costs keep going up. As our cost goes up, our budget rises. As our budget raises, you always heard that the budget went up 1.5 cents, 4.5 cents, 5.5 cents, depending on the year. I remember when the budget went up 27 cents in the first year. That is a big hit on the taxpayers. And I've never voted for a tax increase that went more than 2 digits, because I just think we got to cut. If you want to lower your taxes tomorrow, it's real easy. Just say, don't pick up my garbage. Take away one of my services, because it's the services that drive the budget. Those services cost money. They're all individuals that have to be paid, garbage truck and all that. So that's how your taxes are based on the budget. Assessed value, JJ. Let's go back to assessed value, right?
I'm sorry?
Let's go back to a total assessed value.
Sure.
Right? Petty School has all their houses in Hightstown. There's nothing in East Windsor except the golf course, right?
Right.
So that drives our assessed value way up. And this is important because if you look at the assessed value, that's what bases our difference in the school system. That's why we only pay, I forget what it is, 13.8%.
Well, 13.8 is the students, we pay 17%, 16 something, we pay a little off. Okay, two other issues if I can. Number one, I think we probably wanted to answer questions generally about the tax side. And we have several other items to discuss. This could probably be a full-blown discussion, and that's fine and dandy. I want to leave it, if I can, with the following. In my opinion, the tax problem is a two-part problem. Like Larry explained, it's the expenditures. I mean, I own businesses. I have to make payroll. My offices have to function. And my bottom line is, when my Massachusetts office was costing more than its revenue generation stuff, with all due respect, I like the people, I closed the damn office. It couldn't jeopardize the rest of the company, okay? So the bottom line is, revenue is part of it. And if you have more money coming in, you can spend more with less impact on it. Do you follow what I'm saying? The problem is we need to address $150 million worth of tax-exempt properties in a 1.1 square mile area. And how we do it is open for discussion for you people to talk to us about. That's great. Whether you do it at a council meeting, whether you do it at an open public meeting like this, however you do it, feel free. But I sponsor these things along with Milton, for example, and with the help of Milton and Jeannie this year, because we want your input. We want you people to function as understanding what's going on. We created, and you can get one of these, this is funny. Everybody that sees this is, what the hell is he doing now? Okay? And this one right over here is referred to as public input flow. And public input flow is simple. It's informed. Keep the public informed of what's coming down, what is important for you. Number two, effective input. Give the public the ability at a council meeting or whatever it is to give input, give solutions, give their side so it can be taken under consideration. And lastly, transparency. Let them know what you have done with that information and what you are planning on doing. I believe that's the proper way to go. That's how we try to run the meeting here. We try to give you the information. We get your input, and then we try to tell you what we have gone back and done for you. And that's why we started with the taxes. Please.
Hi, I just wanted to say, we can't fight Petty School apparently, but why do they allow their professors to live in the houses and they don't get taxed? Why can't we stop that?
I'm with you. As a business person, the IRS tells me if I have some of my field staff living in their house and working out of their house, if they declare more than 10% of the cost of that building as a business write-off, the IRS wants details. So for Petty to sit there and say 100% of that faculty building is tax deductible, I think they've got to explain to someone, as Ricky Ricardo used to say, you got some splaining to do, Lucy. Okay? Pure and simple. You've got to tell us how the hell you can make that leap of faith. I'm with you. I believe with the right prompting, we can get Petty School to step up to the plate and to assist us.
At least for the housing that the professors
Yeah, and once again, put it all on the table and say, talk to us about it. We have $150 million of assessed value, which could honestly be $200 million, because we don't know what Petty's worth. So we don't know what it is. I don't really care at this point. I do care about them stepping up to the plate. I care about the East Windsor Regional School District or East Windsor on their behalf stepping up to the plate. I expect them to step up. I'm going to tell you something that I'm really upset about right now. And I'll push it right off fast and then move on. And that is when we talked 7 years ago, and you know it, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong. 7 years ago, we talked about outsourcing the police department. East Windsor was going to pick up the police department. And the first damn thing East Windsor said in their proposal was that we're responsible for the high school. We've got 1.5 to 2 police officers by hours assigned to the high school. First thing they did was they got East Windsor Regional School District to agree to hire 2 security people at full cost of the high school budget. Now, if they can do that for East Windsor, why the hell can't they cover the cost of 2 police officers in Hightstown? Because it goes for the school district. And if they can do it 7 years ago, they sure as hell can do it today. And the reason they don't is because it's us. And if I could give Larry 2 free police officers at $60,000, $80,000 apiece, that's another $150,000 comes off the police budget. He'd be a happy guy. I'm sorry?
How do we do that? How do we accomplish that?
How do we do that? In my personal opinion, we basically go to the school district and we say to them, here's your facts. Are you going to step up to the plate? Are you going to help us out? Or if they say no, then we bring them to court. And everybody doesn't like court.
JP, that's our paying dollars. The school budget's our dollars.
No, the school budget is not Hightstown's dollars, goddammit. It is East Windsor's dollars, as well as us. And I just showed you that we are paying a disproportionate amount of money for that school district. And we keep getting stuck by it. So you know what? I'll take a 60% hit if that means that $150,000 is going to be paid into it. Because you know what? 84% is being paid by East Windsor. Okay? I'm sorry, but I get mad at that stuff because it's not fair to you people. It's not fair to me as a taxpayer. You step up when they agree to do that for East Windsor under the proposal. Why the hell couldn't they do that for us the next day when we voted not to do it? And that's simple because there's 5 people, I believe, on the board from East Windsor and 2 people on the board from Hightstown. And you know what? We got to step up to the plate. We got to call it the way it needs to get done, and we need to start charging service fees. Pure and simple. There are ways to work around this. We need to sit down and say, we don't want to destroy the world, but we want relief because you can't have 30% of your property value exempt, growing. You can't have that again, okay? Sorry, that was an inappropriate outburst, but I'm...
Can we investigate Petty School to make sure that those funds are,
I'm sorry?
can we investigate somehow Petty School?
Absolutely, we can do that going forward, but once again, go for it.
If I'm reading this correctly, it says that the school budget is 50% of our tax levy, right?
No, it's $50 million.
All right, you have 53% here.
Yeah,
That's the regional school.
that's the regional
Correct.
school, correct.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've noticed over the years that we used to vote on the budget. And kept getting voted down. And then all of a sudden the date changed when the budgets were due. I've been in that district for 35 years, so I've seen the cycle. Okay? We once again have so many administrators, you wouldn't believe it. Every child left the school today, the high school today, with a Chromebook to take home. It is theirs. Every single child in the high school. So, other meetings you might want to attend are the board meetings. Honestly. You know, ask where is this money all coming from? You know, it's great doing all these great things, but again, look at your tax bill. A lot of it is going to the regional school. And they're not held accountable in any way.
Look, years ago, we would actually have a vote on the budget. In 1 year, Hightstown voted it down. And East Windsor actually voted it down. And they had to go back to the drawing board. They tweaked it, they put it back out again, we voted it down, East Windsor voted it down, and every time we have a vote, it costs the municipal taxpayers money to sponsor the vote. So we pay for it, not the school district, we pay for the election. So the vote comes, we vote them down. The second time it's voted down, it's a dead budget by law. It goes to the Secretary of Education for the state of New Jersey, and Secretary of Education in New Jersey said, I approve it. So what the hell is the sense in having two elections that we pay for when they're going to get rubber stamped by the state anyhow? It is more than a little corrupt, in my opinion. It is skewed so there is no responsibility being held on it. And you guys in Hightstown get used to it because you got two votes on there. Answer me one question. In 15 years, while everybody else has been building schools all around us in Cranberry, Robbinsville, you name it, they built separate schools. We haven't built one new school because in order to build it, it has to be in East Windsor. What we have done each and every time for capacity problems is we built onto the existing schools. So at the end of the day, there is 3 schools in Hightstown and 3 schools in East Windsor. And when they decided they couldn't be on Stockton Street, they took the Board of Education headquarters and they moved it down to the high school. They moved classrooms to put them in. Then they voted to build new classrooms down at the high school. And it's all on Hightstown's property. It's not our dime, it's the school district's money, but the point basically is the same thing.
I was going to say, and part of the problem with the school district's overall property value is that our schools are rated so poorly. I think they're like a level 6 and 7. So anybody looking to move into the borough, because the schools are rated poorly, it's another negative factor on top of the high property taxes. But the other thing I'd like to mention in regards to the overall budget is the municipal side of it, which, you know, as I'm reading, there's a 5.47% increase for the 2018 year. And I'm concerned about future increases with the proposed new municipal complex that we're building and the other situations. I don't see property tax relief. I see with some of the commitments being made that we're just spending, for a small municipality, to be spending such an exorbitant amount of money on our borough hall I just don't understand it. I don't see how it's gonna help us.
Well, actually, the good news about it is the next topic that we're passing out handouts for right now actually is the new municipal complex. And this handout is from the borough website on the official presentation that was made with regards to the new borough complex, okay? So what we did was,
Hey, JP, just for a little bit of information, and Lynn will probably verify this, when we were voting on the school budget, which is the most important part of our tax rolls, right? 3% of the public showed up to vote. 3%. I mean, where does that, you know? If you took the teachers that lived in the borough in East Windsor and their families, it was more than 3% that voted for the borough. So, you know, some of it is our own fault. We didn't get out to vote. And now, they said it cost so much money to vote that the governor came forward and said, as long as they stay within 2%, isn't it 2% now?
Yeah, but actually, Larry, we voted down the budget for
Oh, yeah, I was
last
there.
3 years that it was voted on. The municipality voted it down and it went to arbitration, and then the number was.
Well, even prior to that, we voted it down, and the school cut $1 million out of the budget. I was there for that. And then the next time it was voted down twice, and it went to the arbitrator, and he just passed the budget. But, you know, did the people go out and really vote hard? 3% of the people is not the number we need. If you're gonna work with the school district, you need more than 3%, believe me. You know, our budget meetings, and anybody over here, we had 6 or 7 budget meetings this year. I don't think but one person showed up at the budget meeting. Not one person. I think it was you, Scott, wasn't it?
You can count on it.
But some of the meetings were, there was nobody in the audience at all. Some of the meetings, the department head didn't even show up to defend their budget. They put in a budget, and nobody went there to question the rate. So,
Larry, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, because been there, done this, okay? If people had showed up at that meeting, okay, would you or any of the council members even give one iota, even listen to what the townspeople were saying? Because at every council meeting, most of the time, you vote right after you've had a public comment on something, which tells us all you don't really care what any of us think.
well, I believe my current council would have made changes to the budget. I really, honestly, and truly believe.
Why would they hear our voice? If we say it's so logical, why wouldn't we make it without us? I mean, if someone comes up and gives you a good point, then either you're not thinking it through right, or you don't really care. I mean, I'm kind of confused on that one, because if you're gonna listen to us, we're not the experts. You're the ones that are hired by elected people. Do the right thing.
I have one question I'd like to pose. I'm not trying to step over anybody else, but obviously we have serious problems within the township. Our elected officials are well aware of what those problems are. The public conversation here means that these problems aren't like secretive. We know what they are. And my point is, why isn't there a concerted effort by our elected officials to, lobby the state, to speak with a loud voice for the interest of Hightstown to the state government, which is really what's propelling us into this difficulty? And why don't we invest some of our budget on being represented at the state level? We have, and voicing the opinion of the people, led by our government, led by our local officials. You know the problems. You know what has to get fixed. I know big businesses, they lobby, they have people representing the interests of the businesses, and they go to the Senate and, the federal government and whatnot. Is our circumstance really any different? Shouldn't we hire a company to champion our cause in the state government? Should we be trying to use the power of supporting the politicians that are running for office at the state level that represent a kind view to our concerns and issues? And until that's done, we could talk and get mad, and we could all say how bad it all is, and guess what's going to happen? Nothing, because we're doing nothing to change it. We know the problems, you're pointing them all out, you're very smart. But who's smart enough to champion our cause so that maybe we have a chance? And I think it starts with our councilman, it starts with our mayor, respectfully. You know, these are all good people trying to do a job to help the township. They're not getting great personal returns for their time and effort. Okay, so why don't we have a focused approach to fighting the things that are causing us all these difficulties?
You want me to answer?
Please.
JP, man, go for it. It's an open
Okay.
public meeting.
Years ago-
Even you can talk.
After that, I'd like to hear JP's response too, after you. Go for it.
Years ago, there was discretionary aid, there was all different types of things that you could apply for, right? And when Governor Christie came in, he said the state was broke because of the pension that JP talked about before, which escalated into big dollars, right, and is still way behind, right? He even came to the borough and said, we're gonna take your affordable housing money. If you don't use this, we're going to take it. The state was going to take it. It was really a grab. They were grabbing anything and everything they could. So when you went to the state and asked for any kind of money, we're broke. We don't have any. In fact, we're looking for money. So that's what happened with that. Now, the discretionary aid, they turned it around and they said, this was probably, I don't know if this was during this, it might be during this time too, at the council, was, when you ever canvass?
No.
Okay, so it was before Lynn. They told our mayor at that time, I wasn't mayor, that if you use up all your surplus, we'll give you some discretionary aid. Right? So what happens is you're running a town with no cushion at all. So it got to the point where at the end of the year, our big front end loader had a blowout tire. We had to wait till January to buy a tire because there was no money there, period. We used up all of the surplus into the budget to offset taxes, applied for discretionary aid, got the discretionary aid, but it wasn't enough to run the budget for the year. So that's how it went. Now, with this new governor, it's starting to turn a little bit. But with Christie, there was no money available.
But I guess my question is, why aren't we organizing and starting at our local government level to speak loudly on our behalf to the state?
We do,
I talked to Linda Greenstein, I talked to D'Angelo, I talked to Dan Benson, all the time about it. And they will help us. They are helping us. They're helping us with grants and stuff like that there. As far as discretionary aid, there is none out. No available money to be given away. That's what they call it.
Well, it's not given away.
That's for
You
sure.
deserve to be treated fairly. And I can tell you, I'm never late on my payments in my office.
Me neither.
And we're getting through it, and we deserve to be treated better.
Believe me, I pay my share of taxes. I have a business.
So, I mean, what you're doing is great. I mean, it's nice, and you're having all these conversations.
In my
But what's
opinion,
gonna happen for us?
well, in my opinion, it starts with a discussion. You find out how many people are interested, because trust me, in the past, people have told me what their concerns are. I have grabbed the flag and I have moved forward, and when I get out there, I turn around and there's very few people behind me, and I get really irritated. That's why, as a Marine, we always bring our own, right, Dave? We have our own backup here. You always feel you can win when you got at least 2 Marines in the damn room. So I feel good about that. And you got a third, but I can't quite finish that. Okay, let's move on, please. Milton just printed out copies for those of you who didn't get the last one, which is a single sheet, which looks like this. I want you to make sure you all got one. What I gave you was a 6-page document, which had the borough complex, okay, presentation distilled into it. And there's 2 pages, and for brevity, we're looking at, there's 2 pages in the handouts that we did, which we think are, in point of fact, important for you. The first one of which is
this page all by itself, which basically talks about the cost of the Borough Hall complex as being $7,642,000 combined, okay? Now, when you take a look at it, as your question was, great. So we now have a municipal complex that you're talking about, okay, Connie, that we got to pay for in the handout that we gave you. In the handout that we gave you, the last page of the handout. The last page of the handout. You got that, but I mean, we didn't get that. Okay, well, we're trying to get more of these printed for you. We just ran out. But if you take a look, it's on the website. You can pull it down. It's on the borough website. If you look at it, here's the breakdown of where the funding is coming from. So you realize that you've got $7.5 million cost to do the whole project. And then if you take a look, we have sale of Borough Hall is $1,050,000. The insurance estimate for the damage is $2 million. FEMA to be determined. And then you've got historic preservation grants. You've got $150,000. Okay? The difference between that revenue and the 7.642,000. It's got to be a bond, in my opinion. So that's $2 million. That's $2 million that's there. No, it's right here. I apologize. It's there. Okay. So you got $2 million from that. So if you take it, we've got about $3 million, a little bit over $3 million we've got for guaranteed revenue. Okay, and we're looking at a potential $7.5 million worth of expenditures. Granted, at the presentation, if you didn't get to see it, there was the comment that they could always hold the police department, which is $2.5 million of that $7.5 million. So we're talking about the Borough Hall at the YMCA is a $5 million project, with the police department is another $2.5 million. So if we got $3 million, and we're going to do a $5 million project, and that's without the police department. So the question that you need to ask, okay, is where is the extra money going to come from? Okay? And that's what Connie's question was. So from a practical sense, we got to do something about the Borough Hall complex, okay? But, you know, full disclosure once again, I'm not a fan of the project. I said that at the public meeting when it was there. That's my position. You guys take your own position on it. My problem is, for that kind of money, I think we could have done a lot more for it. If I recall, when Lynn was on the council, they did a proposal to keep the Borough Hall right on North Main Street, and it was $5 million, a little bit less than $5 million, to have the court and the police and the Borough Hall all rebuilt on a new building right there, 3-story high on North Main Street. And that was, they did the original bonding on that ordinance, and then it was killed up and was never finalized because
that would have included FEMA money and insurance money as well. That FEMA money went bye-bye.
My calculations on it at the time was that even though it was a $5 million project, the taxpayers in the borough would have paid $150,000 for the new complex. That was based on 2 calculations. I paid myself to have an insurance expert come in, look at the policies, and basically say the insurance company's got to step up to the plate and pay more than $2 million. There was a discussion about that. And number 2 was FEMA would have picked up 90% of the difference between the $5 million building and what the insurance company paid. They would pay 90% at the time. That left us with 10% that we had to pay, okay? So I thought it was a good idea. We got to do something, and I concur with Larry and the council, we've got to do something about a Borough Hall complex. But at this particular point in time, I don't think that the YMCA, even though the purchase has already gone through, is that correct, Larry? It's already gone through. We own the property.
I have a question. I mean, I might be out of touch or whatever, but what exactly is wrong? What exactly is wrong with the old building that got flooded? This building must have gotten flooded. All these buildings got flooded. Why is that the only building in question?
They
Why?
shut the windows up and now it's loaded with mold. Nobody did anything. They just locked up the building and now.
Can I say one thing?
You can call in all.
No, it's okay. Here's the problem. I'm trying to keep the meeting non-political. And I can assure you right now.
Oh, you got it.
Look, I'm doing the best damn job I can, okay? I'm trying to be non-political. If we open that Pandora's box about the Borough Hall, and why it wasn't done, I think it's going to go big time political on there. Don't want to do it. The question to be asked is, if you read the Borough Hall project document online, you will see that it talks about all the buildings downtown that were impacted by the hurricanes and the flood. And of all those buildings that were impacted, the only one that wasn't brought back was the Borough Hall. This building you're in right now had 4.5 to 6 feet of free-flowing water going through it. It's on video. You see it. 4.5 to 6 feet of water, and within 3 weeks, they had ripped out all the sheetrock and the insulation, and the firemen stepped up to the plate. And it must have taken them, Johnny, 6 to 9 months before the bathrooms and stuff were squared away. Is that correct? Yeah. So it could be done. So bottom line, we got to do something at this particular point. The question that was asked at the last meeting was, can you give us information on the Borough Hall complex, where it's at, what? We did the research, we've got it for you, so take it away, public meeting.
I have a question, JP. I've been told that when we proceed with the town hall, municipal complex, there are 3 potential options. Can you speak to those and which one you support?
I would honestly prefer, if he's inclined. Larry, if you want to explain the 3 options that it's my meeting now. It's okay. I paid for it, so now it's my meeting. Okay, I got it. All right, the 3 options that we have. All right, from day one. All right, I apologize. We're going down that rabbit hole. From day one, the argument about the Borough Hall was we needed the Borough Hall property to redevelop the damn rug mill. That's been the mantra for 15 years. Not true, in my opinion, but that's been the mantra, okay? So in order for us to be able to do that, we have to get rid of the Borough Hall. Okay, I got it. I understand it. I don't think it's necessary, but from a practical sense, whatever. I was a strong supporter of building a new Borough Hall over there and let FEMA pay for it, the insurance people and all the rest of them pay for it, okay? The big complaint back then was that it was in a floodplain area, and we couldn't build there because it was a floodplain area. Okay, I never subscribed to it, but that's beside the point. Now we know that the rug mill plan, the latest one submitted, not only takes over that property, which is fine, but it puts a subterranean garage there. So if we couldn't build the Borough Hall because it was a flood zone, we're going to allow subterranean cars to be parked there. Makes absolutely no sense. So you have to ask what the real issue was. The real issue was we need the property for the rug mill development. Fantastic. They got it. It's part of the overall. I think the plan actually is from Academy Street down to North Main Street now. Is that correct, Larry? And it's incremental because that's the next one that we have for you. It's the rug mill concept, okay? Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next section, okay? But my personal opinion is we could have bought Shingle and Hunt right on the side street, right over there where the moving company is, right? And what is it? Rise? Rise has the store in front. We could have taken that property over there and put a nice municipal building on it, and it would have been downtown. It would have been nice. We opted not to do that. We opted not to do this. There was a lot of discussion about going to the current place where the police department is, which was called the Lucas property, okay? There was a big discussion about that. So from a practical sense, you know, we have bought the property now for the YMCA. So what I could do, what I would prefer to do, is going to be tied into, if I'm given an option of doing something, first thing is find out what the hell we can do, to be quite honest, and then take it from there. But I'm not afraid of turning around and declaring the YMCA to be a nice piece of property for historic, let somebody else deal with it, because I don't want to be dropping in $5 million on that piece of
And
property.
do you support keeping the police station in Hightstown?
Oh, yeah, I'm a very, very strong advocate that the police department has to stay in Hightstown. I don't want a substation, I want a real police station. Okay?
When you're talking about buying the old property, am I correct in assuming that in phase 1 of the building, that's not included? And if phase 2 never goes into effect, we are still stuck with that municipal building?
It is included.
No, I'm asking.
Here's the paperwork on the Rug Mill project, and I gotta tell you, from the cover on this thing, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, but my problem is I don't see these open spaces, and I don't see the rest, which is the builder's or the architect's vision, you know what I'm saying? Which is fine and dandy. It's my understanding, and I don't know if Larry knows better or not, but I'll just throw it out there. Anyone does, feel free. It's my understanding that the planning board approved what is referred to as phase 1 of the rug mill. Okay, correct. Phase 1 of the rug mill is, in point of fact, from the creek to Academy Street. I wanted to show it on the plan. So what they're doing is they're saying from Academy Street down to where the brick building ends, if you will, okay? The bridge over the water, the concrete building that's there, and the rest of it is in phase 2 and possibly phase 3 concept. The Borough Hall is in either phase 2 or phase 3 of the project at this particular point. In the contract that I've seen, which is the only one online, you know what I'm saying, it was presented on the, that's the only one I've seen. In there is no requirement for them to go through phase 1, 2, and 3 all the way through. There is a requirement for them to do phase 1 and then go before the planning board for phase 2 and then possibly phase 3. But I saw nothing in the paperwork on the sale of the Borough Hall that was in public documents that I had access to that basically was a guaranteed purchase of the Borough Hall by the developer. So what I mean by that is, having been a businessman long enough, if I have a vision of developing 3 parts of the property, and I do the first part of the property, and that's where most of the profit's going to be. When I'm done with that, do I need to go to phase 2? I economically evaluate each phase as I go along, so I don't know. So worst case scenario is, if phase 2 and 3 aren't approved and they don't do it, you still own the Borough Hall, and we can do whatever we want.
And so what you're saying here is this $1,050,000 that's listed here for sale of the old Borough Hall is not guaranteed, is not a done deal.
I have not seen anything, but Larry's got the paperwork. According to Larry, it's a done deal. I have seen nothing in writing myself. I can't validate it, I can't dispute it.
What does he mean it's a done deal? I know that we.
Because you're gonna be developing over there anyway, and when you come around that curve, people don't wanna see that municipal building. The developer wants everybody to see their buildings. This is why I'm asking to re-rest, and why were the windows, the doors, everything on that building was shut up. This building was underwater. Do we have any problem here? You were ripped off, the town was ripped off when they didn't do anything. How many times you go on TV and see all these companies all say, oh, well, you had a flood, we'll come in and we'll dry up your place, do all that. Why wasn't that done? Why are we putting ourselves into this extra expense? Because they didn't want it.
Can't rewrite the past. Listen, I honestly feel it's inappropriate okay?
done about it.
You're fine, I agree with you, but I'm saying it's inappropriate to ask Larry to answer the question because he wasn't the mayor at the time, he was on the council, he was president of the council, if I remember correctly. You did a great job the night of the hurricane, the next day, okay?
No, I'm not asking him a question.
Well, he's the only one here that can answer the
I'm
question.
just saying, in everybody's opinion, I mean, why wasn't something done to clean up the mess? When the fire company did their building, you can't tell anything about it.
It wasn't done, and now we gotta deal with it.
The bell is already rung, I mean, you can't ring that.
All right, who else has comments?
I understand, yeah.
Go for
Makes
it.
everybody
Scott?
No, I'm just holding it.
Okay, the young lady has a question on it. And then we've got the handout on the, what no? Lucky.
Okay,
Already got it.
what is the proposed time frame for this new rub mill, and what will be the revenue that will be brought in, anticipated?
I can honestly look at you and look at the camera and the people on the internet and simply say, I have absolutely no damn idea what the finished delivery date on this is going to be, other than to tell you that where the blue warehouse is on Academy Street is going to be 38 townhomes in 3 separate buildings, and we have a shot of it right over there that looks fantastic, okay? And that's an architectural concept, if you will. I do not know when they will be doing it, because for the last 3 years, I guess we've heard that they were going to break ground, but they had to get DEP approval, and they had,
There was a lot of permits required to do work, no question about it. There was some pollution cleanup had to be done prior to even applying.
yeah.
The last time I talked to the developer, he was hoping to have 2020 December.
2020 for opening?
No.
Opening in phase 1.
No. Complete.
Completely.
Okay, so there is a time frame, 2020, what's the anticipated revenue of that project?
I don't know what the assessed value would be. It's,
That's what I thought.
there's no pilot program. It's all going to be straight out of tax.
Well, I'd like to know if the building was open, any tax incentives for
No.
there?
No.
Pay taxes just like everybody.
Yes.
So that we should remember.
And there's no pilot program, there's no impact on the school system.
Look, from the last paperwork I saw, the question was, is there any low-income housing or any of that stuff going in there? From the last paperwork I saw, okay, the entire project, phase 1, is going to be rentals. Originally, the 38 townhomes were going to be sold, and that was changed in the last presentation before the planning board. So everything there, which is 116 residential units plus the 38 townhome resident units, you put them together, you got about 140, approximately 135, 140 rental units that you're going to be dealing with.
With children.
Now, let's get this straight. Let's be honest about it. I don't believe a lot of what I hear in the room tonight, and I think we're going back and forth. And I don't think there's anybody in this room that's qualified, with all due respect. I don't think there's anybody in this room that's qualified to definitively say what I've heard, that it's not going to impact the school system. I never heard that it was a senior development with no children. And secondly, I hear discussion about how much revenue is it going to bring in. I don't hear the other side of the coin. It's going to require additional police. I don't necessarily mean police quantity or quantity of manpower, but there are additional municipal services that are going to counter revenue. So I don't have dreams that this is the panacea and the cure for Hightstown. It for sure is going to make that area a nicer area, and it for sure is going to maintain property values and at least in that direction. So that's a very solidly good thing for Hightstown. But I don't think you should be counting your dollars yet.
All right, anyone else? Yes,
Run
sir.
your jeans
Wait a minute.
there, friend, you
Go.
gotta.
Is the borough paying taxes, or collecting taxes, what kind of taxes do we collect on this billed property?
All right, there is a tax bill which Mill Property pays right now. I don't know what it is, but there is a tax bill based on the value of it as an abandoned quasi-building warehouse. And that was on the rolls. Matter of fact, 10 years ago, it was up for back taxes, and the borough could have acquired the property dirt cheap just for the back taxes on it. And they didn't. And Johnny, you're familiar with that, I think. And Wolfington stepped in and he paid the back taxes and bought it dirt cheap. Is that correct?
Yep.
Because the guy in the back, if I remember correctly, bought the warehouse, the blue portion.
He bought
and
the whole
flipped
thing,
that.
yeah.
He
He
flipped
bought the
that
whole
sucker. Made a couple of $1 million. So I don't know why the hell we couldn't have bought it and flipped it over as taxpayers and made a couple of $1 million on it, but it didn't happen. So
You can't as taxpayer.
yeah.
One other thing, hate to get everybody aggravated, but the best thing that Hightstown and East Windsor do is merge. I know the mayor in East Windsor is not too happy about that, but the only physical way, financial, would be the two be one. The Hightstown section, they got an extra section, they got Twin Road section, and that's what the heck you gotta do.
I think that's great. We've talked about consolidation, okay, many times. But from what we talked about for the first 45 minutes on the tax side, you got to understand that we are subsidizing East Windsor big time. And if we were to merge with East Windsor, that subsidy would stop. And that would then result in the tax rate going up for the people in East Windsor. Ours would go down because of where we're at. And that's why the last time that the vote was, I think Scott's up on that stuff, 70–80% of the Hightstown people voted to merge, and just the reverse number of East Windsor voted not to. So that's why. We pay 4 cents, 4% supposedly on our tax base, they pay 3. So, we pay, a third more than they do.
Years and years ago, it was just the opposite.
First. Okay, first. Go
Go
ahead, please. Yeah, you're right. Go.
Just a quick question about when you were talking about potentially floating a bond for the police complex or
Yep.
the municipal building. What is the rating for Hightstown bonds?
I think you're pretty good, Larry. Do you want to talk about the
Double A
In
or?
fact, we just sold bonds.
Because the interest on that's gonna add quite a bit to, the cost.
Well,
But,
once again, it
you know.
becomes a long-term debt that the
Yeah.
taxpayers are going to have to pay.
Yeah.
Even if it's a low percentage, it's still a long-term debt. And that's what helps us is the fact that we do have a good rating on the bond issue.
Yeah, that's
I've attended
fantastic.
council meetings in the past.
I think it's an A+. Or
Yeah,
something.
I've attended
Okay.
council meetings in the past where Mr. Lang, the CFO, has basically said, I've objected to bonding on certain things, and they've come back and said, well, that's not a problem, we still have a gap between a cap of where we're at, we're really good, don't worry about it. And I'm like, just because I have a credit card that says I got $50,000 on it, doesn't mean I really want to blow 50 grand because I got to pay it back. So to me, I prefer not to if at all possible. Sometimes you have to bond, and that's fine. But I'm really nervous about a couple of $1 million bond issue for that YMCA and then other bonding for other things that we're going to need in the borough. So to me, I have a different approach on it, okay? Your approach, and that's why we've got the meeting going on. I want to hear from you people. I want to hear your suggestions. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear, you mentioned what my ideas are with respect towards the 3 options on the Borough Hall complex, and my attitude about it is, what is your suggestion, if anything, that will allow us to come up with a 4th option or a 5th option? You know what I'm saying?
I have another question.
You gotta put it in an elevator, you have to have cell blocks put in there. I mean, my God, it's gonna cost more than the building. Why didn't they just buy property and build a police station?
Well, years ago, they were proposed, when the flood hit, they proposed to bring in police trailers. like they had down in Robbinsville, okay? It's a police department in a trailer, they custom built for a police department themselves, and they're approved and everything. And at the time, Jim was the administrator for the borough as well as the director of the police, and he came up with it. And the whole project would have cost less than $500,000, if I recall. The problem with it was the place to put it was behind the historic, and we didn't own it. That was owned by the Rug Mill property, and it was trying to negotiate, and they didn't want to do it. But you know, that made sense. We could have had $500,000 investment, and Robbinsville worked out of that for 15 years, 12 to 15 years before they built their police station down there.
Still didn't build.
They haven't? Well, my apologies. Sir?
I got one question. You said this area is in a floodplain. If you walk this stream all the way down, all the way out to 130, there are high and low places over the Zeitz's place where it turned into a pond. The houses just before Zeitz's are low, backyards get flooded. You have to walk this whole area. What are they gonna do if these people build up this area and flush the water down there and cause problems with the people down there? Has anybody given any benefit to the thought of what's gonna go on with this water? Because they could have diverted the water right from the bridge. They could have built that wall, which they already did, on one side, built that up and brought it down gradually, and it would have kept the water from flooding this whole area.
I think it's good. I think a contractor or builder's agreement should have included hydrology reports on there on what impact the construction's going to do on the property and the subterranean water table and stuff. I don't know. I didn't see any of it, but that's perfectly fine. Sir?
Any building done in a flood zone has to be okayed by DEP, DOT, and the environmental. Okay. All right? The state of New Jersey. So, if you can go out and say, I want to build a Taj Mahal right here in this building, you got to get permission from the state. There's nothing to do with municipality. Municipality can say, sure, we'd like to have that building. Drain the lake and put a casino in the side of the lake, right? But you got to go to the Green Acres and all that stuff. You know, it's not just okay. Let's just do it. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I want to say two things to you. We can continue as long as your little heart's desire because we have the room for another hour. Have to get it out, okay? But it's 8 o'clock, we promised people, so if you want to continue a discussion, I apologize, we didn't have an opportunity to get into any new topics, but just for the sake of discussion, what topics other than taxes and the Borough Hall?
Taxes, but then they've done it for what, 30 years?
Taxes, Borough Hall, and the Rug Mill, and what else? Sir?
Okay.
Because you wanted to talk
I
about
live in
other
the
things.
I live in the Chamber of Hightstown. Prior to that, I lived in East Windsor, and I moved to Hightstown.
Oh, can I stop you one second? May I ask for your indulgence for about 10 minutes so we can get some of the other items for the group, okay?
Okay, so we're living right off Wyckoff Mills Road,
Right.
Which is it's a very heavily traveled road. We have a crosswalks that go across. We only have sidewalks on one side of the street, and it's not on the side of the street that we live on. So we're compelled, if we want to walk into Hightstown, to cross over Wyckoff Mills Road. There are no lights there. There are no flashing caution signs. There's nothing that gives us any kind of relief from the vehicles that speed down there on a regular basis. There's a blind curve they come around. You pull out of the community. It's not so easy to see what's coming from the right. And now we have warehouses being built on the other side in East Windsor. That's going to probably increase the flow of heavy traffic. And we are a senior community. But we're left with painted lights and maybe a small little, diamond-shaped crossing. And nobody pays much attention to this stuff. So my question is there any concern about the safety of the community's residents?
Sure. My position with respect to that is real simple. I believe that the borough needs to, next year, look at the ordinance and basically say, we're restricting truck traffic from that road. We didn't ask Janice Mironoff
to approve that damn construction over there on the warehouses and have people come through White Rock Mills Road onto North Main Street and do it. You've got exit 8 right over there. So as far as I'm concerned, if we could do it, I'd love to pass an ordinance that says, due to the weight restrictions, that road is owned by us, I believe, Larry, we paid to have it
If
first.
it connects with East Windsor, we have to have a resolution from East Windsor okaying it. That's the law.
Whoa, baby, are we gonna have fun?
Yes.
We're going to have some fun.
5.5 years now.
Okay, so my personal opinion is, I don't believe we need truck traffic on that road unless it's making local deliveries. Okay, how are we gonna handle this one? Real nice, real simple. You know, at one point, the interstate highway on 84, speed limit was 55. The governor of Connecticut got very upset because of fatalities on 95 and 84, and he said to the state police, fix it. And the state police did. They parked police cars every mile on 95 and 84, and anyone doing 56 miles an hour was pulled over and ticketed. It didn't take long for everyone to understand 55. So the 70 mile an hour thing was way in the past. So can we do something about it? In my opinion, yeah. I'm really tired of saying, oh, we can't do anything about this, and we can't do anything about that. Okay, personal opinion, give it a shot. What the hell do we have to lose? We're going to alienate someone who abuses us on the tax side? I don't think so.
Amen. A question. We've been made aware, and a lot of focus has been placed on the current issues that are affecting Hightstown. The question is, what forward action plan has been put together to address these things in a positive way instead of just rehashing, okay, what everybody knows as a parent?
Okay, okay. It's after 8 o'clock. Can I make it political? Yeah. Okay. All right. With all due respect, okay, with all due respect, 3 months ago, the mayor and the 2 Democratic council people that were running for election were running unopposed. Nobody challenged them at the primary. Nobody was scheduled to challenge him in the general election. That did not seem right to people because a lot of people were not happy with what's going on and the lack of progress, lack of attempt at progress. I was approached, as were these 2 people, and we were drafted, and we were writing candidates on the Republican side. So in the fall, I am your mayoral candidate on the Republican side. She is on the Republican side for council, Jeannie, and Milton is for Republican. Personal opinion, I said I would do this on one caveat, and that was I do not want to be a mayor that can't do anything. I want to produce. So I asked everyone, you got to vote for the ticket. The ticket allows us to control the council. The council allows us to control what happens in the borough. You're not going to get change if you don't implement change. That's just the bottom line. So, you know what? I like Larry being here. I asked one simple question, and I'm actually irritated just a little bit, okay? I'm irritated following. On the council meeting last Tuesday, correct me if I'm wrong, council meeting last Tuesday, the borough administrator made it perfectly clear at the end of the council meeting that they were getting a lot of calls at the borough hall about this open public meeting. And she had to say in the council meeting, which I was offended by, that I'm telling them it's not an official borough meeting and we're discouraging people. Why the hell do you want to discourage people from coming into an open meeting and talking about possible solutions? That's not her job. That's not her job. Her job is to help us improve this community. That's it in a nutshell, okay? Let us move along with these things. We need support as a community. Look, I've said before, and I honest to God mean it, if 85% of the eligible voters come out in November and they vote and I lose, I am tickled pink.
Yep.
Because we've got people talking. We've got people engaged. And if it turns out that I get 23% of the registered voters vote and I win, I'm going to be bummed out.
Because my biggest problem is this, and I strongly suggest and hope every one of you will take one of these with you on your way out and think about it. The only way we can improve is by having public input. And the public input is you have to tell us what the hell is going on and what you want. And based on that, then we have the background, as you said. Let's make noise. Let's make noise with our representatives. Let's make noise with the national press. Let's make noise whatever. It's fair, fine. If it's not fair, call them on it. You follow what I'm saying? The tax situation of us subsidizing East Windsor is not fair. That's reality, okay? The thing with tax-exempt properties is not fair. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to go up to the point where you're going to look at the good old days, 2018, and say, I wish my tax bill was back at that level, as opposed to, I moved into the borough in 1992. I had trash pickup twice a week. And for the mayor to say, you want me to reduce your taxes, give up trash collection. What did I miss? Shit, yeah! Let's close the borough hall. Let's get rid of the police. The fire. Thank you very much. You're volunteers. You're worth every dime we don't pay you. Okay? But from a practical sense, yeah. Come on, let's step up to the plate. Let's control expenditures. Let's increase the revenue side. Let's make the borough sustainable. Let's bring it back to what the hell you moved here for, and many others have. It's a beautiful place. Let's clean up downtown. You got a rug mill over there that I stood up and I said, you gotta be kidding me. Your vision of the rug mill is a self-contained place. What the hell do you add to this borough? We have a parking problem downtown, and you're going to take all the parking right behind us away. And you're going to make it restricted to your people. Well, what about the stores downtown? Where the hell are they supposed to go? And if we want a destination place, we need parking. So we need the tax-exempt properties to step up and say, I've got property. I've got parking lots. We're going to help you open them up after hours. And we, as a municipality, step up and get them an insurance policy that says, hold harmless. We hold them harmless. That's fair. And we can do these things, but you know what? It takes out-of-the-box thinking, and that's why public meetings are so important.
JP, if I could, I wanted to clarify something Norm was talking about. When it came to the rug mill and the environmental analysis, the Environmental Commission in Hightstown is a very active commission. And stormwater is one of the main topics that we work on. We worked together with the Stony Brook Millstone Watershed and provided probably 25 to 30 pages of documents and examples to the planning board and to the developer, all of which was summarily dismissed.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know,
On what grounds? Why would they?
Because they felt it was going to be too expensive and it would be prohibitive to the project. And they didn't want to take any of the groundwater and put it back into the ground because they felt the pollution levels were too high in the soils and it may damage the stream. So like I said, everything that we recommended was summarily dismissed.
Even if you look at the area
There
out
was
there.
a question in some of us in our community about what time the meeting was, so I went on the website of the Hightstown. They did not list it as a public meeting, they listed it as a borough health
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, listen, you don't want me to get down that road because I'll tell you what.
You should know that because.
Trust me, I know that. And we had a dispute going on. It was their way of sabotaging our public meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
It was. And thank God, people stepped up, including the Board of Health, and they rescheduled their location.
Who said they?
The Board of Health stepped up and said to the fire
administrator.
department that we will move our meeting from this location to the Borough Hall, freeing it up so that you guys can have an open public meeting. So that was the commission, that was the Board of Health itself, that was not, you know, Debbie, the administrator, sits there and goes, it's a monthly thing for the Board of Health. And I go, really? look at the master schedule. There was no meeting in August, there was none in July, and there was none in June. But by God, they've got one in September, October, and November.
Yeah, before the election.
What a surprise!
JP, the one, just to.
Johnny, you got
that
something?
One more thing, 'cause I'm getting ready to leave. Anyway.
Sure, you throw the
You
ball.
won't have to put up with it.
Throw the ball.
Okay, but if you walk the stream, now I had to do that when I ran the animal control units around here because we had an impact of rabies that came through that stream area. But that area, you're talking, just walk outside the building and look up the street. The stream goes that way and cuts around and everything else. But no matter what you're gonna do, if this thing down here, and I know there are people who say, well, they did a study or they didn't do a study, but way the water runs, it's going to impact other houses and other places in here, especially downstream right before you get to 130 by Max Zeitz's old house. And that
That's East Windsor.
Can it be dredged?
Well, that is in Hightstown. That's not in East Windsor. But I don't know if you have permission to dredge or clean a streamline.
You don't.
You know, you'd have to do an impact study on that,
You
right?
don't.
You don't have permission to do
Number
that.
one, I like to address that issue right there.
Johnny,
Right.
take the mic. You got it.
I don't need that.
I know that.
That stream issue was an abortion from the word go. These bridges or these archways under there, they're small size.
Right.
And when you got over here, when Frank Street was done,
Right.
that was reduced in size. At the time, they thought that was gonna be, okay, that was good enough, but it isn't good enough. The water, that's one of the reasons we flooded in Hightstown, because the water filled up here, it hit that bridge down there, and it couldn't get through, and it all just backed up here. It came out the entranceway over here, and it flooded the town. It flooded all downtown, it flooded here, it made a mess.
And if
All
you
right?
increase the water, you're gonna flood.
If you-
Grand Street Park. you're gonna-
One second. For those of you who are getting ready to leave, Concept, we have a domain called myheightstown.org. It will be up and running this weekend, so
No, I agree with you.
take a look at myheightstown.org. The council meetings, these meetings, the documents we've got will be fed up there, and you'll have the ability,
All right,
Johnny.
one other
please.
thing I wanted to say, and
So
that
that's a
was-
no-go.
What's that?
The dredging is a no-go.
JP.
No, you
Yeah,
can't.
you can't dredge it.
And it wouldn't help if you did, because the bridges, the
Oh, you
archway
got-
stop it. All right?
You got a funnel there, yeah.
Yes, the YMCA, you've got a 100-year-old building, you're gonna try and make a new borough hall out of a 100-year-old building, at least 100, excuse me. It's over 100 years old. When you go to, I had a construction background and I know this, when you go to redo a building and you have to drill a hole in it to pull a wire through or anything that you have to do for it, you've got a major project. Every time you touch that building, you're gonna have a major project. They jumped the gun really, and I was hoping Larry would be here to answer this question. The bottom line is, are we locked into that building, or can we move it to another building? Because another building just opened up, right up the street from there, the old Lane Tire and Michael's Quick Print, and that building behind that, that's a lot of buildings back there, and that's a lot of room back there. That's the same room they got there, and they could probably put it
In
there.
order for us to do that, quite honestly, we gotta have change this November, so January we can do something about it. One question I have for you before we break, I thank you for your time. Did you find this valuable or worth your time? Yes. May I make one suggestion? Between now and election day, for the hell of it, go to a council meeting. They have a 3-minute in the front, 3-minute at the end, wait till your 3-minute at the end, and stand up and say one thing only. Why can't you people have an open public meeting where we can discuss things for an hour and a half?
Why don't you listen to us when we show up at council? And why don't you give us the respect? And why don't you wait to listen to us before you vote? And if everybody here tells 4 or 5 other people, because people in Hightstown don't know or they've given up. Those of us that have lived here 25, 30 years in businesses, we're ready to give up, but we can't.
No.
So if everybody tells other people, we can grow, and maybe we have a chance, and I hope we will.
Thank you much, and remember, myheightstown.org.
And that will list the meeting?